Today we have new data from the Labor Department. It shows that 379,000 jobs were created in February, which puts our unemployment rate to 6.2%. Good morning, Dana. How are you today?
I'm well, and yourself?
Doing well. I feel like we should have like the foghorn from The Indicator or something like that.
For It's Jobs Friday.
Yep, Jobs Friday. All right, so Dana, 379,000. Pretty good numbers?
Pretty good numbers. There's some optimistic things in the jobs report today.
All right, so I also saw that the January numbers were revised. We thought that we were about 49,000 job growth in January, and it comes in 166,000. So that's good news. But then I also saw the bad news and it said that the December numbers of 227,000 jobs lost was actually closer to 360,000. So, given our discussion last month, I've also heard news reports that we are down to 6.2%. Is that a fact? Is there a decrease?
There is no decrease. And if you read what the Bureau of Labor Statistics released, they even say there's really no change in the unemployment rate. One thing that we have to remember is that they gather information using surveys. So these are estimates. And estimates, as you just mentioned, get revised, and there is a measurement error around them. And so 6.3 is no different than 6.2. And in fact, if we look at the data, the unemployment rate has been unchanged since October, November of last year.
Okay, I also saw a Guardian headline that said the U.S. economy has bounced back. Thoughts?
While I said there was some good news and some promising stuff in the jobs report, we haven't bounced back yet. I think that's overly optimistic and rosy.
All right, I'm going to throw up a chart for you this time because you always give us charts. I'm going to give you one.
Okay,
All
ready
right,
for
there's
it.
your
Hit
chart.
me.
So what do you think of these numbers?
Well, I saw those numbers not as beautifully colored in the jobs report, and the second and third one are the ones that I'd like to talk about. The second one, I was like, wow, that's great, and the third one, not so surprising. One thing to mention about things like a jobs report is we expect to see some things change because of the time of year or weather. And you know what? Texas froze last month along with the rest of the country. And so jobs like construction that you typically do outside. Yeah, I'm not surprised that there's been job losses there. But the thing that was the bright spot of the jobs report was the hospitality and leisure industry. And so that looked really, really exciting to me. And so I decided to do a little digging, and I have a graph for you. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's throw it up.
Okay, so I decided to look back over time because we know we expect, okay, we've been shut down. There have been restrictions on travel, on when you go out and eat and things like that. So this would be an industry that would be injured by that. And with that number, I thought, wow, they're back. And if you look at this graph, which goes back a year ago, uh, there's been a 20% job loss. But what struck me, which I was really surprised about, is if you look at this, it's been flat for months. And so, yeah, they've increased jobs, but they have a long way to go. So my initial elation is a little dampened, but this is something that, as Dr. Fauci tells us, that we can go out and and dine once we've been vaccinated and things. I think these numbers will pick up. Yes.
All right, so this morning I heard an interview with Brian Deese, the White House National Economics Council Director. He said that 9.9 measured unemployment rate of African Americans, but the actual unemployment rate is in the mid-teens. Can you help decipher that?
Absolutely. And I think this is something that frustrates a lot of people. Um, the unemployment rate, when we talk about that, it's the number of people who are unemployed divided by this thing called the labor force. Well, those people that are unemployed looking for work, it's a very specific definition to be able to be counted as unemployed. So you have, if you want a job, but you haven't looked for one in the last 4 weeks, you're not classified as even in the labor force, yet alone unemployed. So what he's referring to is we can add in measures of people who want a job but are outside of that classification. So we add in people that would like a job, they can start working now, but they haven't looked for a job in the last 4 weeks, but they have in the last year. To some people that, and a wide variety of things like that. And then we also add into it people who are employed part-time, but would like full-time employment, but can't get it. So it's part-time for economic reasons. And so they'd like a full-time schedule, but for some reason they can't get it. So when you look at those numbers, and this has been the case, across for decades, the unemployment rate's a lot higher. I know we were talking earlier, and you mentioned that right now the unemployment rate for African Americans is just under 10%. When you add in all those other figures, it stands in the mid-teens. The unemployment rate that you just mentioned, of the 6.2 is actually 11.1 by those standards.
So during the pandemic, is there any demographic that's been considerably hit harder than another when it comes to that unmeasured unemployment?
When I just back of the envelope calculation, there is just one concern. It would be actually African American members of the labor force, or I should say of the working age population, that their unemployment rates are persistently higher and consistently higher than the rest of the population. And so I would say that there's, not knowing why, and labor market economics is not my area of study, that would be of a concern.
Okay, so being the econ data geek that you are, what was your big reveal in the data this month?
Well, as I dove down into the data, and with a sort of an eye to the impact of this on women, because there's been a lot of press about women who've been leaving the labor market because they have to educate, schools are closed and things like that. Going back to what you had just mentioned about different measures of people who don't have jobs, and I mentioned that there is this thing, you'd want a job, you could start now, you've looked for work in the last year, just not in the last 4 weeks, and so you're not classified as unemployed. There's something called a discouraged worker. And a discouraged worker is someone who's been looking for a job, but after a while they give up and they stop looking because they keep being told no. Either their skill set's wrong, or they're too old, or they're too young, they don't have the right experience. Who knows what it is, but they don't think they can get a job, even if the economy got better. And those are called discouraged workers. And when you look at this between men and women, it was really striking for me for women, and particularly troubling. I have a graph for this that we can put up. And when we do, we can see this large spike in the last few months. And almost 4 million women are classified as, marginally attached to the labor force. They want a job, but they can't get one. And the concern is if those numbers don't go down, and it's across male, female, it doesn't matter your race or national origin, this is a problem, because if they stay unattached, economic growth is going to take a lot longer to come back.
Well, on that high note, again, thanks for joining us. I really look forward to a few more Fridays before we do the March jobs report. You'll have to help me out deciding what would be a good topic and tie this to the Lichtman keys. So thank you, Dana, for showing.
My pleasure. Big fan of the show. Always happy to be here.
Thanks. So if you like this video and the content, please hit the like button and subscribe. When you subscribe, add in the comments, I subscribe. And until next time, trust but verify.